All right, welcome to episode 8 of the How'd You Start podcast, where I sit down with business owners and discuss how they got started. Today I'm sitting down with Brian DiYorio. Did I say that right?
Yeah, DiYorio, like D and then cookie Oreo.
DiYorio.
Yep.
Appreciate you sitting down doing this with me. We obviously connected on Instagram. So what is the name of your business?
So it's 1042 Custom Wood is the name of my business. A lot of people will ask me, why did you choose 1042 Custom Wood? So my full-time job is I'm a police officer at a local agency, and that 10 code is what we'd call it. 1042 is off-duty. And so kind of my outlet, my hobby is to do woodworking, and so when I'm off-duty, that's what I enjoy doing. So that's kind of how I got created there.
Yeah, cool. Because you're doing the woodworking when you're off-duty. 1042 is off-duty. That's cool. So what you do, obviously you do woodworking, but what number one, how did you get started in woodworking? How long have you been woodworking?
Yeah, so I mean, as a kid, when I was in Scouts, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, there was some woodworking kind of going there, doing some merit badges, classes, things like that. And so I just kind of got into it. As I got older and got into college, I hadn't done it in a long time. One day I kind of told my wife I got tired of working off-duty jobs. In the police world, you can go make some extra money on the side. I got tired of wearing a uniform when I'm off-duty, and got the CNC machine and just got back into woodworking, and just kind of took off from there.
So you originally got into woodworking looking at it to make extra money? Or did it originally start just as a hobby for fun? Or did you, even from the beginning, have the goal to make some money with it?
So I wanted it to be a hobby, but obviously make some money as well, too. It was going to supplement my off-duty income. I didn't work a lot of off-duty, but I mean, I don't know, maybe pulling in $2,000 to $3,000 a year on off-duty. And I was like, hey, if I can just do that and stay at the house and not have to be away from the family and wife and all that kind of good stuff, then hey, that's what I'm gonna do.
You mentioned you got the CNC. What was your first tool purchase? Was it the CNC?
That was it. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
So of the woodworkers I know, that seems kind of backwards, in a good way, because CNCs are awesome. But, most people kind of work up to that. You got the CNC first. Did you know what kind to get, how to go about it? Did you know how to use it, or was it just a lot of researching, or how?
A lot of researching. I had the basic tools before, but the CNC that's what got me going. I didn't even have a miter saw at the time. I just had a circular saw and a little miter box. But yeah, I just did some research. Some guys at work had talked about CNC machines as well too. So I kind of looked at what they were looking at as well, and settled on the X-Carve, and convinced the wife to pull the trigger, and I did, and the rest has been history.
So you get the CNC, you get it assembled, set up, whatever. You start learning how to use it, getting the files, getting the tool paths, the feeds and speed. For those that don't know, that's required information to run a CNC machine. But you learn how to do all that. What was so you started doing woodworking to try to make some extra money. You got the CNC to do woodworking to make extra money. What was the next step? Like, did you already have a product in mind, or how did you figure out what to make with the CNC?
A lot of that was just kind of, looking on Instagram, what people were wanting to buy, just scrolling through Facebook, I guess, really. Of course, Facebook always just listens to their phones and all that. So as soon as I got the CNC, I started getting ads for things like what you can make with them. So it kind of started there. And I knew, obviously, from my law enforcement side, getting that CNC machine, I could crank out wood flags a lot faster than some of the guys at work had a little rotary tool, and they would talk about how it would take an hour just to do a union. And on that machine, I can run it in about 11 minutes. So it really cut down the time to, I guess, mass produce. So I was kind of thinking, hey, if I can get this done a little faster. So,
how did you get your first customer? You mentioned the flags. Was it, like the guys at work, once they hear you got this, customers swarmed in for flags, or how did you get your first customer, and what ended up being your first project?
Yeah, so
paying project from a customer.
Yeah, so funny enough, my first project that was paying customer was not a flag. I'd actually seen a sign on Facebook, and it would go in your bathroom and it was a 5 stars and said wood poop here again.
Okay, yeah.
And I ended up making that on the CNC machine, and a gentleman now is a captain at work. He loved it, and that was my first sale. But as soon as I made that first flag and kind of showed people, people started coming. I wouldn't say out of the woodworks, but they were coming pretty good.
And was it more of that kind of gag gift stuff, or was it more flags and
More flags, coin rack holders. I eventually got into, not long after that, doing badges. That was a big seller in the law enforcement community. For those guys and girls, it's mostly flags, coin rack holders, and badges.
for challenge coins?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How did you? Was it hard to find those files because each agency is going to be different, or if they want was it hard to find those files? And even if it wasn't hard, was it hard to get them to go vector file? Like, was there any issues with that, or not really?
Well, for me, absolutely. There's no way that I can. I can now, after a while learning it, I can do some of it, but I still, a lot of advanced stuff, I'm not the best with vector. So I actually went to Fiverr. Found a guy on Fiverr that does really good work, and I've been using him for several years now. So I've been fortunate enough. He's very good at it to where if I can't find like a digitized image of it, he's been able to take a few folks have been able to take photos of their badges, and he's been able to turn that into the
from a picture of a badge.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yep.
So you start making the badges, you're making the flags, the challenge coin holders. At this point, was it fairly steady? Was it you first get the CNC, I would imagine you're going to have an influx and immediate shock of all these people that want this stuff. But then it might taper off, or did it stay steady, or did word get around and it continued to grow, or how did it go just with the flags and the coin racks and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it really, word got around, and it's been steady, and like you said, it fluctuates. Initially, right out the gate, it was like the flood just opened, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what did I do, and why did I do this? But once you get the hang of it, I'll definitely say the very beginning, there were several large bonfires of extra wood that was messed up. But yeah, it started coming, and it's kind of stayed steady with that, and again, in that law enforcement community, people have been talking to each other saying, hey, this is where I got my flag from. This is where I got, my badge from, or whatever. So it's really spread.
So you mentioned about having a bonfire to burn your extra stuff. So how long did it take you? I don't want to say how long did you mess up before you got one right, but how long did it take you to where you got consistently, where you feel confident that you're not going to walk out here and mess up 4 times before you get one correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say maybe about 3 or 4 months to really kind of get settled into it. Now, I think business owners are your own worst critic. A lot of times, like if I see a very minute, detail, I'm freaking out saying, man, this was terrible, even though the customer's like, no, this is the best thing ever. But yeah, it took me a couple months to kind of really get comfortable and know that, all right, when I get the CNC going, I'm not going to mess anything up. I'm not going to break a bit. I'm not going to mess up on the design, or, even putting the flags together. I'm not going to put too much glue on it, and all of a sudden there's glue all over the thing. So it took a little bit of time.
As you started making those flags, did you begin to learn what other tools you needed?
Yes. As I did that, thinking about what other tools I needed, and not even just the tools, the quality of the tools. Everybody always wants to get the cheapest thing. So at first I started off with, some cheap tools. And then as I gained some income from the business and was able to get the business to buy stuff, I would upgrade the tools, and, finally started pulling the trigger on nicer tools. And, hindsight's always 20/20. I wish I had just started right out the gate with a more expensive quality tool.
Yeah. But you began to learn, like, okay, I need this to sand it. I need this to mill the wood. Because it's not always as simple as just buying a piece of wood and throwing it on the CNC. There's some prep work and stuff. But, and I guess speaking of that, was there a learning? How did you go through about in the early days, in the learning phase, go through knowing what kind of wood to use? Do you use plywood? Do you use solid wood? Was it just trial and error? Did people request certain types of wood?
Yeah, I mean, some of it, very few people request the type of wood. A lot of it was trial and error, and a lot of it, too, was just watching YouTube videos, watching how other people did things, and seeing what they did, and then, all right, let me see if I can copy that, or can I use part of whatever I just saw in this video to get my product going.
Mm-hmm. So it gets to the point where you're doing, let's say, a lot of coin racks, flags. Was there ever a point where you I don't want to say second guessed it, but you're like, oh my gosh, I'm busy?
Yeah. I mean, still to this day, it comes and goes. Of sometimes I'm like, man, is this a hobby or is this a job? So sometimes you just got to sit back and just think about, all right, hey, remember why you did this, and at the end of the day, I'm still having fun with it, and I don't let it overwhelm me enough to where I'm thinking this is a job, this is terrible, I should have never done this. I'm able to kind of regulate. All right, well, I got too much going on. Most of my customers are all by word of mouth. Most of them are coworkers or friends. So if I get to that point where I'm just feeling I got like 7 projects in line, all of them have been receptive. I'm like, hey guys, I'm a little too busy right now. Come back to me in about a month or so, and then I can probably get started on your project. So
yeah, how long would you say on average it takes to do one flag badge, or maybe it's different depending on how much painting, or I mean, how long would you say on average, if I call you on a Monday and say, hey, I want a flag, Monday, January 1st, how long roughly would you say is an average?
I usually tell people for like a flag, if I know I'm going to get to it pretty quickly, I tell them about 2 weeks just to give me some time, because again, with my full-time job, I used to be on nights, I'm on days, so it's a little different now. But I'll tell people 2 weeks. But if I really sit down and focus and knock it out, it'll take me like 3 days.
Okay. Have you gotten, I'm assuming you've gotten to the point now where you know good places to buy wood?
Yeah. In most of my stuff, though, I mean, people were surprised. Most of my stuff I just go up there and buy from Lowe's.
Okay.
For the flags. Now, I don't buy the cheap whiteboard. I'll buy the Select.
Right.
Just because it's a nicer, piece of wood. Some of my stuff that was more, I guess, custom, I've just been lucky enough where I've not had to go buy anything. I've got stuff left over from friends up in the mountains. I'm originally from the Asheville area. So every now and then somebody will give me some nice pieces of, maple cut rounds or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But if I've had to get anything that's a little more exotic, I actually don't, nothing down here. I actually go up to Asheville, and there's Klingspor. Mm-hmm. And they've got some pretty good stuff there.
Yeah, so for people listening that are considering doing woodworking, I guess it would be a point to note that you don't have to have the most expensive wood. Mm-hmm. You just got to have some skill and make the product nice.
Correct.
You're still making money selling stuff on big box store wood.
Yep.
Not quite construction grade lumber, but close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you just take a little bit of time when you're in there to. Yeah, if I'm buying a 1x2 or something, it's 8 foot long, you just kind of take a little bit of time to find the ones that aren't a little crooked, or but you can usually find them.
So, kind of talk about what happened after that. So you started with the flags, the badges, the coin rack holders. I'm assuming to this day you're not just doing those 3 things. You've got into other projects and stuff. So, how did those other projects come along? How'd you get the ideas for them? How did that start?
Yeah, so as I was doing that, I just wanted to expand some more. So I ended up getting a glow forge.
Okay.
And then getting that laser engraver really kind of opened up a lot of different things as well, into jewelry, wood notebooks. I use a lot of slate products now too, like slate coasters will engrave on it. So I've kind of expanded outside of just the wood realm as well too. So yeah, getting that glow forge kind of really opened it up.
Yeah, so the Glowforge products, the laser engraved products, was it a see something online, make it, put it up for sale and see what happens, or was it more of the custom stuff? Somebody's like, hey, I want my name on this, or
Yeah, so it started out more of the custom stuff, and it was to complement the CNC. Some of the badges were very high detailed. And it would take a lot to get. The CNC can do it, but and again, I'm kind of my own worst critic. Sometimes if I don't see like a line that's straight or something, I don't like it. Whereas the laser engraver, I mean, that thing is just spot on, high detail. So a lot of times what I end up doing is taking the union of the flag and putting the badge there from the Glowforge, but then using the X-Carve for the union. So it was kind of those two machines working together to create the product.
Any issues getting them to line up? Because sometimes when you take a project off of one and you're having to realign it on another machine, have you ran into issues with that?
At first I did, and then I kind of realized with the X-Carve, with the Inventables program, the CNC software, you can drop in shapes and things. So what I would do is on the Glowforge, if I'm doing a circle, I know it's a 10-inch circle. Well, then on the software side, I would drop in a 10-inch circle on the software and make it to where it's a no cut. So then I know, center it up in the union. All right, that's where my piece is going to land. So now this is where all my stars that I can get, cut out. So it took a little bit of while, but in finagling between different softwares to, I guess, falsify that piece is on the piece that's on the CNC to line it up.
So with the laser engraved products specifically, not the ones that you're using CNC and laser, just the laser engravings, did that do pretty well, or how was that doing sales wise, business wise?
Yeah.
Were you selling a lot, or?
Yeah, so there I've actually done a lot of like earrings. The wife will pick out the designs and then I make them. I was able to expand into up in Stanley. There used to be a place called Colorful Arts. It was like a paint your own pottery painting type place, but she had a couple booths in there. So I started there, and so with like earrings, making signs for like they would say Stanley and the coordinates of the town. And then here in Belmont started doing the same thing, and then I also now have another booth, and it's called the Collective in downtown Belmont. And so a lot of my stuff is like a Lake Wiley laser engraved cutout or something along those lines.
And I would say similar question as far as how you get the files and all that, but you have the Fiverr, you have the Connect. You've learned over time how to get that sort of stuff. How did you first? You mentioned the booths and stuff. So how did you find these places where to sell, or is it just because you live here? Maybe is the answer. And how did you get into selling them? Did they have certain requirements? Did they have minimum stock? How did all that work?
Yeah, so that first one that was up in Stanley, I just really lucked out. My old partner at work, before I got promoted, her and I worked hand in hand in our community unit, and she lives up there, and it was actually her friend who owned the business. So when they started, she had told my old coworker, or my old partner, hey, we're looking for some people. Do you know anybody? And she's like, yeah, I know a guy. So then that's how I got in there. And then the one in the Collective, that's more recently. June, I'll be there for a year. They were advertising, hey, we have booth space. And I can't remember who it was. Somebody tagged me on Instagram saying, hey, 1042 Custom Wood would be a good fit. So I sent them a message, and they said, yeah, we love your stuff. Would you want to come down here? I did. There's no minimum. Of course, there's like a rental fee for the booth, and then percentage as well, too.
They do take a percentage also.
Do. But it's enough. I mean, I enjoy it there, putting stuff out there.
And you know them prices up front, so you can price your stuff accordingly.
Yep.
Do you have an issue moving product? Does stuff sell pretty good in each one of those?
Yeah. And sometimes it's hit or miss. So like last Saturday on the 26th, so it was a Garibaldi Festival here in Belmont. That's just a big festival they do downtown. It usually draws about 5,000 people. Belmont used to be called Garibaldi, so that's why it's the Garibaldi Festival. So first year I did that. The wood journals, man, I sold probably 40 of those things. It was like hotcakes. Like I was like, man,
in that one weekend,
one day.
Oh, in one day.
One day from I think that year was from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and they were selling like hotcakes. I was like, man, this is my golden ticket right here. And they did well too, selling to people throughout the rest of the year. So the next year, getting ready for Garibaldi, I'm like, I need to make sure I have.
What was engraved on those? The same Belmont kind of town related stuff?
Just those, or just different sayings.
Okay.
Like nothing's impossible.
Right.
Different
just,
things.
Yeah.
Adventure awaits. Those types of things. Really knowing your audience and who you're going to try to sell these things for or to. But yeah, so I got ready for that next year, and I probably had like 60 of them ready to go, and I think I sold 5. But then this last Saturday, my wife and I were talking. We were down there. I was like, I wonder how many notebooks I'm going to sell, and I actually sold, I think, about 20 of them. So it's hit or miss on it. You never know what people are going to get.
How did the other products do in the booth, or is that the only product you keep there?
No, I've got other stuff there as well too. Of course, like earrings, magnets. I just put keychains out there. The Belmont signs, like with the coordinates and things, those sell pretty quickly. It's hard to keep in stock up there, but yeah, they sell pretty good.
So speaking of keeping it in stock, does the place that owns the whole area, I think you said the collective. And the other one, do they notify you when something's low, or do you have to keep going up there and checking on your stock, or how do you know when to restock?
Yeah, so the collective will reach out to me, but they're right up the road, so I'll just drive by whenever, like if we're going to go out to eat for something, or if I got to run to Lowe's to get something, I run through Belmont, so a lot of times I'll just stop in, say hello to them, and see what the stock is, and then all right, I'll write it down and bring it the next time.
For the collective and the other one, because you're in two places now, right?
Well, so I'm actually in two now. The one in Stanley, she closed down. I ended up picking up in Gilmore's Mercantile in Gastonia. It's a coffee shop. Same thing. Another coworker of mine, he gets his coffee there all the time, and he had recommended, hey, go talk to those people. They might let you set up in there. So I do as well there.
Do you have competition in either? Is there anybody else in either one of them that are doing the same thing you're doing?
Not in the collective. I mean, there's earrings. That'd be the only thing that's the same competition.
But not woodcut engraved earrings,
not
though,
really.
right?
No.
What would you say is your best moving product in each one of them? Is it the journals? Is it the earrings? Is it kind of split across the board?
Probably at the collective, it's a lot of magnets, those Belmont signs, and the earrings.
And you mentioned knowing your audience. Big thing for business owners. Got to know your audience. That's how you make money. How did you learn your audience? Was it just seeing what sold? Maybe that's the simplest answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, obviously when I first started, my audience was, fellow law enforcement officers. That's kind of what I started doing. But then as I expanded, especially going to the Garibaldi there in the public, everybody's not a cop that's walking in to your shop. And so that's the earrings, kind of looking at what other women are wearing, and obviously leaning on my wife. What kind of earrings does she like? And then picking
what's
those
in style,
designs.
what's not ugly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So at what point during all this did you start selling online, or do you sell online?
I do some stuff online, but it's not a lot. I've not been able to honestly focus a lot of my time to the online store because I stay busy with the word of mouth.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I guess leading from the word of mouth, have you ever done any real advertising, traditional like have you done paid ads? Have you done any sort of advertising?
Every now and then I will. When I first kind of got started with this, the Gaston College over here, the small business center, most of your community colleges actually have small business centers, if anybody doesn't know that, in North Carolina, and they offer free classes. And so I started going to some of those classes, and usually at the beginning of the semester, so like every August or January, the classes will start out with how to start a business, how to write a business plan, and then later on it can be things about insurance or marketing. So I went to the ones for the marketing on social media and kind of started boosting my posts on things and finding out, am I getting anything out of that? Obviously in the social media world, you need to get more followers and trying to hit those algorithms to get your stuff boosted. So a lot of that was that, and then I did run a couple things on
Did it
Google.
work? Did you see returns from those ads?
Yeah, somewhat. Not enough for me to like really pump it up more. And again, my capacity was, I was at capacity with the word of mouth, so I didn't try to.
You didn't want more.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess to your point, for those listening though on the community college classes, were those worthwhile? Was there value there, or was it a joke, or were they
No, they were
use of time?
They were good because most of the classes were not taught by like a faculty instructor. Obviously, those folks are hired by the college, but they are fellow business owners in the community. So like the person that did marketing, I can't remember what firm they own here in Belmont, but they talked about like their clients and talked about good marketing, bad
first-hand
marketing.
experience, a trusted authority in the topic that they're discussing.
Yeah.
So that's Good. And the classes are free.
Yeah, they're free.
At least around here they are.
So it should be every community college in North Carolina. They should be free through the Small Business Center, and it's really good networking as well too, because it didn't come to fruition because a guy didn't open his restaurant up in Lincolnton, but he was going through the class, and I'm in there talking about I'm doing woodworking with a CNC. I want to make signs. He's getting ready to open a restaurant. I need a sign. So I was able to make some connections in there of other people. So it's really, you can also start to build clientele by going to those classes and meeting other people that need something, a service that you provide.
$1 million question in business, and not just your type of business, but maybe every industry. How do you know how to price your work?
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's a big thing, especially in woodworking, and more specifically would just be handmade products. How do you know how to price? Because usually it's majority your time.
Yeah.
So how did you learn how to price? How do you price to this day? What's that look like?
Yeah. So when I first got started, I didn't really know what I was doing for the pricing. And I just kind of told myself, as long as I'm getting back $25 an hour somewhat out of this, because that's what the off-duty rate was, then I was like, all right, well, I can do this then. But I wasn't factoring in a lot of cost of things to that. So then my wife's got the financial background. She's a CPA, makes Microsoft Excel, like she's a wizard on that stuff. So she created a spreadsheet, and I was able to plug in how much material am I using, all the way down to the finish. And of course, it's just an estimate, especially when you're talking about finish and you're from a spray can or even brushing it on or whatever it is. So I was able to use that spreadsheet and calculations to come up with like, hey, am I at least getting like 40% profit on what my cost would be? So that's where my $25, would come from. And then obviously if we're doing it long enough now, I kind of know what, all right, I made something before, I'm going to make this. It's relevant close to this. So I just go based off the same price.
So, the cost of goods for that project is easy to figure out. You know what you're going to spend to go buy the wood. If you need to buy a can of stain that you don't have, you know what that cost is. But, you don't, not you, but some people don't necessarily figure the drill bits, the saw blades, the stuff that you're not buying for that project specifically, but you're having to buy just to have an operational shop. And that's, I think, where a lot of people struggle to come up with pricing, because how do you price that? Does that drill bit last you 5 years? Does it last you 5 days? You're going to price stuff accordingly if you're buying tools more often,
So I built in on that equation like a $4, like I think it was like a tool line or something. That was just, that $4 was just extra, and then I know I can use that. Obviously, the money's in the same pot at the end of the day, but as I'm selling products, a percentage of that is going towards the tools, and then not only to replace them, but then to buy new and more tools as I went.
Is there anything else that you price hourly besides your time, like your machines running? Do you ever do CNC by the hour? Do you internally price that by the hour, or how do you price the CNC?
Yeah, sometimes
or the laser.
Sometimes I will. I mean, I guess I quasi do it. I don't sit there and say I want $1 every minute this machine runs or something, but I'll see how long it's going to take on the machine to run, and that will dictate the price on it. If it's something that's going to very detailed, even on the laser engraver, it's not like you just hit the button and a minute later this thing comes out. High detail projects sometimes will take almost 2 hours on there. I'll take that into consideration when I'm looking at the price of it.
Mm-hmm. And same thing for the you tell me where I'm wrong, but we're talking about this price, and I'm assuming we're referring to like the custom, the flags, the that sort of stuff. But if I'm going to use the term batching earrings or notebooks and stuff, I'm assuming it's a little bit easier to price because that you're making 10 of these or however many. You're in these 3 physical brick and mortar locations. You started selling online. You did the little bit of advertising on there. has there been any other form of either in-person or online sales? Have you gotten into Instagram Shop, TikTok Shop, any of that? Or I see you post a lot on social media. Is that just to show your work, or is that a strategy to get more work, or both? Or
more so now, just to show the work. I mean, I'll get some work out of that. Still to this day, I can't figure out why my Instagram won't let me do a shop on there. Of course, trying to reach out to Instagram is talking to a brick wall sometimes. So yeah, I wanted to do a shop on there. I had a Facebook shop, not much traffic on there, so I never really focused on that. So again, everything's just kind of word of mouth still.
Yeah, and your website is not your bread and butter right now.
No,
you're not getting constant sales every day, every week on there.
No.
Like it's the majority of your stuff is either word of mouth, custom, one-off projects, or the stuff that's in the location.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that's really come from like on the website. Before my mom passed in July, I was making earrings and things. She had some cancer, so I was making those earrings with like the ribbons on there. And she lived in Asheville, and a lot of her friends up there wanted those, so I would direct them to the website, and I was able to keep up with things that way a lot easier. I also belong with a police association. They were kind enough to put me in their annual publication for, I think, 3 years. So I would sometimes get some custom work from that publication, and I would just direct people to the website, and it was easier to let them buy it on there. Just put a custom project on the website and let them buy it there.
We talked about pricing your work, but the other, what I'm going to call the businessy side of things, the administrative side, was that hard to learn? Did you have a business background, or maybe you leaned on your wife a bunch with her background? Or was it hard to learn the business, forget woodworking, just the business side of thing? Was that difficult? Was there any hurdles with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, everybody can balance a book. At least you think you can until you really get into business. I understand, obviously, bank accounts and things, but, doing the sales tax and then trying to go back and make sure every single to the penny has been logged in. I use a free software, Wave, and it plugs everything in and generates some nice reports for my accountant at the end of the year. But yeah, I kind of struggled with that, but thankfully with my wife with that CPA background. And surprisingly, she only does that when I ask for help on it, which I usually don't like asking for help. So
yeah, right.
Usually by the time I give it to her, it's a nice little disaster. But with her whiz in about 15 minutes, she's like, "Here's where you messed up," and I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." So,
did you end up taking any more business classes, or just the marketing couple?
I took a couple of them through there, like the insurance side. I did that.
Is there a reason for insurance in this type of business?
Well, so actually, like selling at the collective, they want you to have like a general liability. And then when I really started thinking about it, if I am selling to other people, then yeah, I probably should go ahead and get some insurance. It's not that expensive. I think for my like general liability and my property, I think I pay like $60 a month. But it is a peace of mind that is definitely something not to skimp out on for sure.
Okay. At what point did you transition away? I'm assuming you started working in your garage.
I did.
Or where did you, the physical space, it started in the garage?
Yeah, was in the garage.
At what point did it transition away from that? And why and how?
Yeah, so I started in the garage. I had built on the wall for the CNC machine to fold up, and I had this idea, hey, I'm still going to park my car in here, but I'm only woodworking, I'll put it down. That lasted maybe about 2 weeks, and then the car never really entered the garage anymore. When I got that glow forge, the glow forge has to be temperature regulated. It can't, if it goes really cold or really hot, the glass tube in there will bust. So my garage is not heated and cooled, so that ended up going into the office area, which my wife used a lot. And as I got busier and busier, she kept telling me, I don't want you in my office anymore. So I told her, I said, okay, we're going to need to either add on to the garage and make a heat and cooled spot, or I'm going to need to build a building. And she finally said, all right, let's build a building. You're expensive, but get out of my office now, please. So that's what happened. I now have a wonderful 2-story building.
At that point, had you been making some money though to help put profits towards the building at least?
Yeah, definitely doing that.
Maybe not the full amount of the building,
No.
but close. At least to help put towards it.
Yeah, and 100%. And then obviously, I would tell anybody that's doing a business, there's no reason not to LLC it. And so I ended up LLCing it. I caught some flack or grief from some people saying, hey, why are you doing an LLC? Why are you going to report that on your taxes? And I'm like, I'm a cop. I am not going to be the front headline page of, hey, this guy's going to jail for tax fraud. So I LLC'd it. But what I ended up doing is just making a personal loan to the business. And so now as the business continues to make money, I'm able to pay myself back for the price of building the building.
Besides the building, take that out of it. Does the business pay you right now, or does everything get reinvested?
Everything gets reinvested.
Okay.
The way I kind of look at it now is, I'm getting nice tools and things. So if there ever comes a day where I'm like, hey, I think I'm done running a business and hang it up, at least when I have my wood shop, it'll have a lot of nice tools in it.
Yeah. So you're doing this part-time. How many hours a week would you say you're doing woodworking stuff?
It's kind of hard to say depending on the week, but I'd probably say 15, 20 maybe.
Oh, okay.
Like on my off day, I'll come out here for a couple hours and work. If I'm pressing for time on a project, and usually I'll get off around 6 or 7 p.m., so I'll come home and come out here for an hour or something and run a project.
Mm-hmm. Going to weekend events? Yeah,
so that's the Garibaldi is the only one that I do. I want to get into a couple more, but just obviously life happens, so haven't really had a lot of time to do another one yet.
What do you ever want to do this full time?
I think when I retire, depending on where I'm at in life at the time, I think that's kind of what I'll do. A lot of cops when they retire, you'll see them right back in a uniform again. 30 days later, working part time. But when it's time for me to hang my boots up and I've done what I serve the community, I'm done. So
this will be your retirement job.
Yep.
But you don't want to do it before then.
No.
Would you? I guess option A versus B. You would rather turn down the work and not get too busy rather than take it full time?
Yeah, where I'm at right now, I'm very thankful. I mean, it is a stressful job, but I love it. I still wouldn't trade it in the world for anything. I don't want to do this full time right now.
Mm-hmm. If people want to get something from you, how do they find you on Instagram, social media, whatever?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, 1042 Custom Wood, and then of course my website's 1042customwood.com, and that's where you can find my stuff. Shoot me a message. You can check out some of the stuff online that I've got for sale. And
do you ship the big stuff?
I can. Yeah.
Yep.
I've got some big boxes. I'll order from like Uline and box those up and send them out. When that police association put me in their magazine, I did get a couple orders from people in like Georgia and stuff for flags, and it boxed them up and sent them right on out.
Cool. All right. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe. And if you're listening to it on your podcast player, leave it a 5-star review. Thanks for sitting down doing it, man.
Absolutely.